So yeah, now let's start with building or creating an account at Maxbox. Okay, so to actually make these kind of maps, yeah. So you can see here that I've created a map for United States, and now I can even zoom in it, zoom back, hover on it, and it gives me the review, the latitude, longitude, the stars. Again here, it has a lot of it has a lot of restaurants present here, and you can see by hovering each and every of the extra information present for each point is being shown here. And this color change is actually defined for stars, that a 2 or 2.5 will have this many, a 4 or 4.5 will have this many, and yeah. So now let's move forward. So just search Mapbox and click on sign in account. So yeah, so it's already signed in for me. What you can do is go and just sign out. Now, yeah, this page is what is going to be shown once you click on that link from the Google search. And here you can click on sign up on useless, sign up on Mapbox, and just input your details and credentials and click on I agree and get started. So since I already have Mapbox account, I'm going to sign in. So once I sign in, you can see the dashboard for Mapbox, and here you can see that I've already have a default public token, and it asks me to create a token also. You can create a token or you can use the default public token. So just copy this and paste this here. So now you will have your own token present, and for that you can just use the token and build maps on your own profile or maybe on your own Jupyter or Colab file. But one thing to understand here is that Mapbox gives you only 50,000. It might look a very big number, but it is not. So it will only give you 50,000 free loads, meaning that if I reload this, it would increase the load by one. And now I've used two loads out of 50,000 loads for the maps. So once this is over or this is finished, you might have to pay so that you can use the Mapbox account and create maps on your files. So again, 50,000 is much if you're just going to implement this project. But unless if you're going to move forward in that direction and use or maybe handle geographical or geospatial data, then it might be good for you to pay as you go. So for me, since I just have to build this project and show you the power of Plotly, I've just used the free version. So you can copy your own or maybe use my also, my default token. But once 50,000 is over, that means this key won't work and these maps won't load. So yeah, now let me just give you a brief about the set Mapbox access tokens function and scatter Mapbox function. Okay, so it is pretty clear that set Mapbox access token is just going to take the default token or maybe any token that you have provided and works as an authenticator that yeah, you can use Mapbox library and its features. Okay, but to actually build maps you have to use scatter map blocks. Sorry, map box. It look, it sounds like a and twister to me. So just like I told you, if you don't have one yet, you can just go on the map box and create the account, use the default token, or maybe create your own token also and use that. Now, using the function scatter map box, we are going to build the map. Here we input our data that has already the latitude and longitude. Okay, we then just define them with latitude and longitude parameter. So you can see that we have input the data, that is DF restaurants, having all the restaurants. Then I am telling that inside this the latitude column is to be filled in the lat parameter, and the longitude column is to be filled on the in the longitude LON parameter. And then the next parameter is color, that is for stars, defining that here you can see that the value or the range is 5 to 0, and for each range it has defined some color, and that is depicted here. You can see that if I zoom in, I got zoom in. Yeah, if I zoom in, you can see that there's a down. Yeah, here down. You can see there's a dark orange, a light orange, a yellowish. So it is defining the range of maybe 4.5 to 4 or maybe 5. Yeah. So this is what colors parameter is taking and doing. Now size is review counts. That means the marker. Here you can see this is a very big circle, this is a small circle and some fuzzy circles. This is small, you can see a lot small points. So this size is actually what is defined by review count. Again, this is zoom, how much you can zoom in. This is width and height. The width and height for this map, interactive map. Yeah. So next what I'm doing is taking the state NV, North Vegas, and only taking the North Vegas side and again building another map to see the, yeah, here you can see a lot of restaurants are present with different ratings, and you can see if I hover here, if I hover on one, you can see review count is 6, latitude, the longitude and the star for it. Here again you can see, again you can see. So this is what I'm talking about. Now for this situation or for this kind of just building and defining restaurants, you can do that. But even for different kinds of data, like say police killing in some area, you can take any state, you can take the data for the police killings, the state and the longitude and latitude place, and it would again give you a map with different places where police killing took place. And if you specify the hover data, this like the review count and such, it will tell you how many good killings have taken place at that point, or maybe some other attribute that you have defined. Okay, finally we have reached the model where we are going to build and train the model. So we're going to use k-means clustering. And now the first thing is to determine the number of clusters to be formed. Again, either we can just directly put in some value of cluster that we want, or we can, through two methods that are elbow method and select method, we can find the optimum value of k, that is number of clusters to be formed. Now, by finding optimum value of k, we can say that the prediction or the recommendation given by this k-means model would be highly enriched and precise. So for that reason, we are optimizing and finding the best value of k. Now, if you already know about the elbow method and the select method, then it's good. If not, I'm just now going to explain what both of these methods are and how they're optimizing or finding the best value of k. So the elbow method is one of the most popular methods to determine this optimal value of k. Here you can see that I've taken distortions list and sending in some values, that is the inertia value. And next you can see that I am now building a graph for distortions and the values of k. You can see that for values of 0, 5, 10 that are defined for k, a graph is made that is decreasing in some order, and then from, I would say, from here, somewhat here, you can see that the decrease is now linearly. And in elbow method, we just have to find the point where the decrease in the value for distortion starts in a linearly fashion. Okay, now you might be thinking what distortions or inertia is. So distortion, it is actually the calculated average of the squared distance from the cluster centers of the respective clusters. Meaning, let's say there are four clusters. So I would say cluster 1 has center 1, and similarly cluster 2, 3, 4 have center 2, 3, 4. So I'm taking the distance between 1 and 2, then 1 and 3, then 1 and 4. Now I take the average of all of these distances. That is one distortion. Similarly, for 2 point, I would say 2 distance from 2 to 1, then 2 to 3, then 2 to 4, then take average of it. Similarly, for each and every number of k and each and every distortion for each number of k. Now, this is a little bit confusing, but what I want to say is basically, say there's 1, 2, 3 clusters. Only 3 clusters are to be found. Then in distortion of 1, I would say distance of 1 to 2 plus distance of 2 to 3, sorry, distance of 1 to 3, okay, divided by 2. So this is distortion for 1. If I want to take distortion for 2, then I would say distance from 2 to 1, then distance from 2 to 3, and divide by 2. So now if I now increase the value for k, so now I'm assuming that k is equal to 4. So 4 clusters are to be formed. Then distortion of 3 will become, sorry, distortion of 2 will become this. So like this is how it is actually calculating the distortion. Okay. And now inertia. So it is the sum of the square distance of samples to their closest cluster center. What this is meaning to say is that, say there are three data points. Yeah, inside this, let's say there are let's say there are three data points here. Okay, so the cluster would be between here, some point here. So we are taking the distance from each and every data point, okay, from the cluster, and say the distance from data point 1 to center is d1. Similarly for data point 2 and 3 is d2 and d3. So we're taking the sum of the square distance, so that is d1 square plus d2 square plus d3 square. This is what inertia is. Okay, now what we are doing is calculating inertia for each and every cluster and taking the sum and then inputting that into the distortions list. And for the range of building k from 1 to 24. Now using that list of distortion, I am building the elbow graph. So here what you have to see is the minimum, or actually the maximum point from which you can see a linear decrease in the value of distortion. You can see the first value it drops down to more than 20 if I move second point from first point to the second point. Yeah, so let's say this is the value for first point, this is the value for second point. So from moving first to second point you can see a very large decrease, then the decrease has diminished and again diminished till to the point where now there is no diminishing decrease, the decrease is constant, you can see from here. So we are taking that point, and even if you go and look forward, you could see that at the value k is equal to 5 or around 5 is the most optimum point for our k means to take 5 clusters. So we have taken that our clusters number of clusters to be found is 5. Next we are going to talk about is the second silhouette method. So the second method is silhouette method, where this method computes the silhouette coefficients of each point that measures how much a point is similar to its own cluster compared to other clusters. So what we do is we compute the silhouette coefficients for each and every point, and the average of it is called the silhouette score. So the silhouette value is measured of how similar an object is to its own cluster compared to other clusters. The value ranges between 1 to -1, both inclusive, okay, and where a high value indicates the object is well matched, that is, if a value ranges or is closer to 1, that means that that object is pretty much similar to that cluster. And if the value ranges in or is closer to -1, then that means that the object is not as similar to the cluster it is belonging. So for computing that, what we do is first we compute the average distance of the points with all other points in the same cluster. Meaning, let's say there are three clusters, cluster 1, 2, and 3. Each cluster has 3 points. Okay, so what we do is for the first cluster, taking the first point from that cluster, we compute the distance to the two other points that belong to the same cluster. We take the average of that. Next, we take the average distance of that point with all the points in the closest cluster to the cluster. Meaning, let's say now that I have taken the averages from the cluster 1, I see that the cluster 2 is closest to cluster 1. So I take the value point 1, okay, from cluster 1, and I take the distance of that point 1 from all the other points of cluster 2. Then I take the average value of that. Okay. Lastly, what do I do is for calculating silhouette coefficient, I take the first point, okay, that is where we calculated the average of point 1 from the other clusters. Let's say that is B. So that average is B, and the averages of point 1 from the points in the same cluster, that is average, or I would say that is A. So what to calculate silhouette's coefficient, what I would do is I would write B minus A upon maximum of B and A. Okay, so this is what is happening under the hood, and that is actually being done here and then being done here. So silhouette score is actually what is being, this silhouette score is what actually is calculating all that silhouette coefficients and then taking the averages of that. So what I just now explained in terms of mathematics is what is happening inside this silhouette score function. taking the value coordinates, okay, and the labels. That is the clusters, meaning the label can be cluster 1, cluster 2, or cluster 3. So if I just print sil, it now has all the cluster, or I would say the select coefficients for each and every value of k. If k is equal to 1, that means only one cluster was present. If k is equal to 2, that means two cluster was present, and select score, or that is select score, is now calculated for both the clusters. So you can see it ranges from number of clusters equal to 1 to number of clusters equal to 24, and you can see the values for each and every. Now you can see that these values, see, this value is greater than this value, meaning if I say this is the value of k here being 14 and this is 15, that means that a cluster having 14 cluster is better than having 15 cluster. So we find the maximum value from here and then input the number of cluster. From both of these methods, we find that 5 is the best value for the number of clusters to be formed, and that is what we use. Now, next what we do is, but what we understand from here is that no, maybe 5 is not the best value, since select score is 3 0.38 and we saw, or 0.44, 0.5. So I have taken the lesser value is because it actually takes a lot of time to train the model if I build 14, 15 clusters. So if you have time, then you can actually input the best number of cluster. You can see that the value here is 0.453, this 0.455. I think this is the max value, or 23. So meaning 23 clusters can be formed. Now you can input that and then train the model and use it. But again, for simplicity, I've just inputted 5, which you can even see in the elbow method, is the point where major part is not, meaning where the decreasing or the rate of decreasing has diminished at a very fast rate, meaning that here it was, the value was diminishing in very fast rate, but here you can see that the rate of diminishing or decreasing has also decreased. So I've taken 5 here. If you can move forward, I might have taken 7 or 8 here. So for simplicity, I took 5. But again, using both of those optimizing methods, you can actually input the best number of cluster here also, or the optimized value for the number of cluster here. Next, what I'm doing is using the predict function and giving the input longitude and latitude. So these are what my points, I would say, the on the Cartesian plane, longitude and latitude are the points that are being built and upon which predictions are to be done, and for the which cluster that location would belong. Since each and every location is mapping to a restaurant, that means here the prediction is done for which restaurant belongs to which cluster. So now you can see that a new column I have created named cluster, which is telling you the number of cluster or the name of the cluster which this Dairy Queen restaurant belongs to. Yeah. Now what I'm doing is again building a map which is now based on not rating but clusters. Okay, though it is giving you a point of 3.5 and 2.5, there's no 3.5 and 2.5 present here. It's either 4, either 3, either 2, or either 1, or either 0. So that's why you won't be seeing any orange color. You would directly be seeing either yellow or either dark orange or magenta pinkish color and purple color and like blue color here, and that is what you can even see here in the map. So another thing is that Here I've already defined hover data. Before I didn't define hover data, it took the values from lat, long, review and size and color. But here I have also defined hover data that is telling me that even showcase the name, and both of these are already superimposed, so nothing more to present. But you can now see that even the name is present, that is Cinnaholic, or maybe Boogie's Bars and Grills. So that is what I was talking about, that we can even visualize more, even input the HTML part and give more details about the points that we have marked on this map. So this is the last part where we are working upon the location based recommendation system. So I've even stuffed the data and only using the Las Vegas part of the topography. Okay, and only since I've already made a predictive algorithm, or actually trained the k-means clustering. Now what I'm doing is taking a subpart of that data that is only having Las Vegas restaurants and doing the predictions for only Las Vegas. Sorry. Now you can see I have created a simple function that is taking the df, that is my data or data frame, and the longitude and latitude. So if I'm just taking the top restaurants for Las Vegas and giving an longitude and latitude for, let's say, wherever you are present right now, it would give you the latitude and longitude for all the restaurants that are close to you, or that are close to you and have a high rating or review count. So you can see that taking the longitude and latitude as parameter, it is predicting, and we're just reshaping to just get the best cluster, to just get the cluster out of it. Okay, and from there you can see that it is printing that for this set of parameter or geographical location, the restaurant belongs to class 2. Okay, and the top 5 restaurants for this cluster are these, having these latitude and longitudes. Meaning, if you're liking restaurants from cluster 2, it is going to provide you with the top 5 restaurants of that cluster 2 with the geographical data about where it is present. That is giving the latitude and longitude. Now, you can even see that in recommend restaurant, again using that function, if I'm giving this as the parameter. So I would say that I'm giving this data, or the place where I want to search about the best restaurants present around it. So you can see that it is giving me that this place is defined by cluster 0, and the top 5 restaurants present anywhere close to these coordinates are these. Again, for this I have shown you. So it takes cluster 4 here, and I've just made a testing data to again test if it is working, and if it is working, then to create a map for it. Now you can see that here one cluster is present and here another cluster is present. Actually, what it is telling me is that I gave the input of this location, and the closest cluster is present here. Okay, and the top 5 restaurants are all of these that are named here. Okay, even if you go forward and look at the second map, so you can see that if I am present here, okay, that is giving the coordinate for this location, it again gives me that this cluster is what you belong to, and the top 5 restaurants belonging to these cluster are present here, here, and here. So you can just move and go to this restaurant. Again, for the last part, you can see that if you are present here, then again, I think this is the same one. So with this, we can say that we have finished the location based, I would say, recommendation system. Okay, but one thing to notice, or I would say one thing to keep in mind, is that we have just used the Las Vegas, or I would say the sub part of the actual data set, and now we are just predicting which restaurant might be the preference. Look, if the user is giving me this location, okay, what you can do is, maybe rather than just taking Las Vegas, you can use the whole of the data set. Or what you can do is, rather than just using the Yelp data set that I am using for this, you can even take the data set that is generated in your country and can easily use that data set with these methodology and code implementation, and even you can build a recommendation system based on location for restaurants in your own country. So with this, I'm going to complete this project. And if you have a lot of knowledge about web applications, how to build them, and embedding maps and all, then you can even push forward this project to build a web application of location based recommendation system, even showing maps. Okay, but for this project, the scope ends here. Hope you liked it.